Holy cow, Bubs, look at all these poly bushings. All sorts of stuff. Sway bar lengths, I guess, whatever the hell you want to call them. And there's also a kit here for the Nova front subframe. Ah! Ah! For the control arms here. So here we have a lower control arm with the stock rubber bushings that come from the factory. You can see if you look close, these bushings are getting cracked and eventually those are gonna fail. So instead of just replacing those with the standard bushing, I elected to order some energy suspension polyurethane bushing kit. So it has all the new bushings and collars which press into the control arms, uppers and lowers, and then there's some lube that comes with them to lube them all up. But anyways, now all I did on all four of the control arms was I added some braces. You can see I tacked in this brace across here to here, and then braces here and here, so when I try and press all these out, none of this gets deformed, because if it gets deformed, then these bushings won't go in proper, and these poly bushings are a little bit less forgiving than the stock OEM rubber ones, which leads to a tighter suspension setup, tighter steering, tighter all that. So that's why I'm replacing these with the energy suspension kit. Now while it's out, I'm going to replace the ball joints too, but I'm actually going to take and scuff all this up and repaint it. This was painted about maybe a year ago, but being around the shop and working with it and all that, it's gotten scratched up. And so I got these original bushings out there, really a pain in the ass. They've been there a long time, so they get rusted in. Anyways, there's no real trick to doing this. All I used was a couple half-inch extensions, and I have a couple different half-inch sockets here. You can see that I have the two missing that I used. Basically, I find the closest size OD and just use it in my press here. It'd be nice to have two people to do this. See, here's, I get one of the rubber bushings out with the press, and then I flip it and do the other side, and then I can get the socket in and do the other side. So, no real secret. Here's the OEM ones. Alright, so we're cleaning up the original upper and lower control arms. Now one thing that's on all of these original control arms, these are all stamped steel, so they actually have press marks. You see those streaks right there? Those are press marks from when it's all pressed. Well, if you take some time, you can see here, this one's ground smooth, so there's no press marks on it. So that when you paint it, you don't see any streaks. It looks almost like paintbrush, like bristle marks with those there. So that's just another little detail you can see. There's some in there. So we're just gonna try and sand all those smooth and then pour 15 it. We got the old makeshift paint booth set up here. Yee! Try and keep all the overspray off our damn shit. And I got everything coated with 3 coats of Pour 15 rust preventative. So right now I'm installing some of these energy suspension polyurethane bushings in the lower control arms. Now these are kind of a pain in the ass to get the sleeves in. So basically, here's a sleeve, and here's one of the corresponding bushings. Go like that, press onto each other. And then there's a smaller one you know, you get the idea. The smaller one is on this side, bigger one's on this side. Obviously they're in pairs, so the other is the opposite, or I guess the same but the opposite. In the directions for the poly bushings, it says to just wedge a piece of metal in between here. Well, I found that whenever you just wedge something in there, it likes to pop out, and I actually got shot right in the leg with one of these spacers I had in there when I was pressing it in. So I just decided, even though I already freshly painted these, I decided to grind off a little spot and tack weld in these spacers. Now this keeps these legs from squishing together this way, and then as well as these two arms here from squishing together. So there's a spacer on each side here. Now, if you look at it here on this side, it's structurally going to be strong because you already have this brace here. So really, you want to worry mostly about these little ears on this end, on this side here. So I got those pressed in. It works better if you press in the metal case and then put in the bushing. Otherwise, if you put them in together, you take the chance of ripping the rubber or the polyurethane bushing when you're pressing this all in. So that's that there. Get these fully seated, or as close to fully seated as you can. Now if you look close here, you can see that these have a little shape to them. I don't know if that's factory or if that's just bent out of shape, but basically you want both sides to be press fit into each of the holes. And then you just throw the supplied grease inside the sleeve here. Now if you look close, there's some grooves in there. You want to make sure the grooves get fully coated on the inside, and that is actually what gives you some lubrication for the sleeve, which slides inside of here, and it actually rotates this. The sleeve rotates inside of the polyurethane bushing.
Woo!
So I got my control arms installed. I'm just sitting on there loose with no spacers yet, because obviously it's going to need an alignment. Anyhow, I got the airbag bolted in the top there and the bottom arm on. Now it's time to install my ECI narrow track kit for the Nova, which will bring the whole wheel and tire in an inch on each side, so it'll give me more fender clearance on the inside. So I'm just going to start installing that stuff. Uses the stock spindles, and pretty much everything else comes in the kit. And then I can put this all back together and put it under the car again, finally. The ECI narrow track kit has everything that you need to narrow up your track width. Here is the hub, really freaking nice, fancy, huh? And then inside here is some polished billet dust caps. Usually these are just sheet metal, but this is a nice upgrade. Here's the O-rings for the dust caps, all the brake pads, the hoses, fittings, and all the new bearings. Even comes with the Allen wrench for the slide bolts. So I'm just gonna throw the bearings in there and get her done. Here's the new wheel bearings, the inner and the outer. Now one thing that you'd be surprised happens a lot is people install these not greased. Well, that's no good. They're not going to last very long if you don't pack some grease in there. So you can do it the old-fashioned way and just press it in. That's a lot of friggin' work. Otherwise, they do sell these bearing packers. All you do is slide it apart, throw the bearing in there, pump some grease in, and it presses it all through. Works out pretty friggin' slick, so I'm going to do that and then install them on the hubs. So before I got this kit, I wondered how the hell it worked, and I'm pretty sure all the magic happens in this hub here. So you can see that this hub is pretty short on this side and longer on this side, so I think basically all that's done with this setup here is this flange is further this way, so that means the rotor is going to be further this way, the brake mounting surface is going to be further this way, and then you have to have different brackets which are provided in the kit for the calipers. So this is a very ingenious kit, really like it, easy to install. I didn't realize that I had to put on this bracket and the bolts before I put this on, so I just popped the nut off real quick. And got the caliper brackets on here as per the instructions. I didn't know there was instructions until I actually looked more in the box. So that was helpful to have those. Instructions are good, very detailed. There's no pictures, so maybe in pictures would be nice, but I know that's a bunch of work. So anyways, pretty simple. It's all kind of just started and ready to get thrown together. And then I realized that we actually forgot to paint the steering arms here. So you can see the steering arms here are primed. So I'm gonna have to wait until tomorrow to let these dry after painting them. And then I can put it all together. That's kind of how it goes. You usually find something that slows you down and you have to wait a day or two. Say you need an extra bolt or you gotta let paint dry, and that's kind of how it goes. So you gotta be good at jumping around if you're building a vehicle like this. So here I have the dash also, and I'm working on that a little bit. And then of course there's always body work to do. Alright, so I got these spindles all lightly put together with my steering arms. And I gotta get some red Loctite for this upper bolt, so I haven't tightened it all on yet. But I've gone ahead and tightened up the hub. Basically, what I usually do is I'll use my little 3/8 inch ratchet here and I just go until it stops, and that's usually about right. Basically just go until it's got a little bit more drag than it did completely loose. This here is a little tighter than what I usually like, but if I loosen it up to the next notch, you see for the cotter pin, then it's a little bit looser than I like. So I'd rather have it be a little tighter and it'll slowly wear in. So that's just preference. Just follow the directions as far as the orientation of the bracket. Caliper goes towards the steering or the back of the arm, back of the car. So you're looking at this is the back of the car, this is the front, and obviously each side is going to be the opposite. And then the welded on tabs, as per the directions, go towards the outside of the vehicle. So these look pretty damn nice. Lighter, billet aluminum, and then in turn brings your wheel in an inch. Big moment here, I can finally get the rotors and the brake pads and the calipers and everything on and installed. My tires are going to be here tomorrow and I'll get them thrown on the steel wheels. I'm running Radar tires by Omni. It's the only real tire I could find that was affordable as well as fit. I'm just using the rotor here. I just threw the rotor on with the lug nuts as it would, and you can see here is the caliper mounting bracket, and here are the calipers. So I'm going to actually throw these on, load them up with the pads first, lube the slide bolts, and put it all together. Again, this is an ECI Nova narrow track setup, so it actually brings the wheels in an inch on each side, allowing for more turning clearance. So with this Camaro and Nova front subframe, there's usually a lot of ball joint bind because the shorter control arms aren't really made to be bagged, especially the upper control arm. So I'm actually going with a QA1 ball joint, which is extended length. So it basically, in a sense, lengthens out your control arm in a geometry sense, and it basically adds to your control arm without adding to your control arm. So I chose the extended length stud. The QA1 ball joints are adjustable, so I'm going to throw those on instead of the Moog ball joints. It'll help out my camber because the upper control arm is so short. It saves me a lot of money versus spending $2,000 or making my own control arms. So it's a good fix, works good, and they're better ball joints than what you're gonna buy at the store anyways. So here it goes. One thing that's unique about these ball joints is they're adjustable, like I said. So you can see here's the locking collar, and on the inside is actually the torsion tension thing, whatever the hell you want to call it. So here's a special spanner wrench that I ordered with the ball joints. Spanner wrench goes on there like that, and inside there you can see there's a spot here for this socket to go over the greaser. So it's just like adjusting the tension on it, or the backlash on anything. Wrench here, loosen it, and then just basically go by feel. Right now you can feel these are loose as hell. That's how they come factory. You just gotta adjust them to how you like. Some people like them looser, some people like them tighter. I don't know, it's hard to tell in video, but it's free, but it has some good tension on it too. So